rise and shine.
Rise and shine, chop chop.
Rise and shine.
Rise and shine, it's a beautiful day.
Rise and shine, rise and shine.
Rise and shine.
Rise and shine.
You guys are nerds.
This is exactly what the nerds want. Our name shall become legend. Spoken in hushed tones by nerds across the galaxy.
If you build it, nerds will come.
Nerds must love this place.
They think we're a bunch of nerds, and I'll tell you something, I think they're right.
Let the nerds take over.
Let the nerds take over!
Rise and shine, nerds. We hope you've got your coffee because it's time for our brand new morning show for Love Thy Nerd and anyone who finds themselves at the cross-section of nerd culture and church culture. I'm Radio Matt. I'm the Director of Content and Resources here at Love Thy Nerd.
And I'm Deidra, professional guinea pig herder.
First of all, happy Independence Day, American nerds. Later in the show, we've got an extended interview with Love Thy Nerd's IRL events lead, Luke Filipiak, today learning about his faith journey. But first, Deidra has some things that she would like to talk about.
Awesome.
Which I don't know what they are.
Yay.
So buckle up, everybody.
So something weird happened to me a couple weeks ago, and it made me think about, my concern with what other people think. So have you ever been just like swatting away a whole swarm of bugs and more concerned about what the people over there think you look like than the bugs?
It's like when, because it was Brian Regan, I think, I don't know who it was, but a comedian saying whenever you walk into a spider web, nobody else sees that spider web. They just see you flipping out for no reason.
Yeah.
It's an off! It's one off!
Well, we were recently at a lake. We went to Roswell and camped at Bottomless Lakes over there. It was me and the boys and my dad. And it was very hot. It was like 110 degrees.
This is ridiculously hot. I've never been more happy to not be camping with you.
But we were like, let's just go look at the lake because it was a really quick trip. And so we walk over to the lake and the boys are like, can I put my fingers in? I'm like, yes, just don't jump in. And then all of a sudden, all these like flies start swarming us. And it's probably the popsicles that we had with us.
That'll do it.
But oh my gosh, I was just like swatting these bugs away, and there's all these people in the lake, and I'm just like, they must think we look insane. And I was like, I am more self-conscious about what others think of me than getting these bugs off of me.
I will admit to that as well. We had about a month ago, I guess, we had a infestation of moths in our town.
Oh yeah,
they're just everywhere.
Wow.
And so they would get into your car. And so I would be driving, and then suddenly a moth would be flying in front of my face, and I'd go, ah! And I'd be just rolling down the window, flapping things out, get out, while I'm driving. And I'm like, yeah, people definitely think I'm going nuts in this car. But I can't drive with a moth trying to get into my mouth or something.
Yeah.
But yeah. Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
All the time. It's hard to not be self-conscious about how you look in a public place when you're freaking out.
Yeah.
You want to be the cool person that doesn't flip out over bugs or anything else.
And honestly, I try really hard. Like if there's a bug in the house, I noticed early on with Eli that I was projecting my fears onto him. And so now I try to be brave for my children. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go get this spider, even though inside I'm just screaming bloody murder. Got to be brave for them because I don't want them being all terrified. I'm like, no, it's fine. It's fine that there's a spider crawling on the wall. It's okay. We're just going to squish it. It's fine.
Oh, gosh.
Do I have time for another time?
Oh, absolutely.
Ooh. Okay. So I have something to admit to all our listeners, and I know that might make you like me a little less.
Oh, no.
But I'm a cat person.
Ugh. Ugh.
If you're a cat person too, it's okay. We all know they're better than dogs.
I know Lark's
It's
a cat
all right.
person.
There we go. Where's Lark this morning? And I had a cat growing up. We had her since I was probably in second grade. Mm-hmm. And she lived 20 years. I mean,
Yeah, she lived a long time.
Yeah. It's always the feisty ones. But
Constantly peed on your dad's boots.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the Air Force, and she would, our clothes would be all over the place in the house, and she would find like his one sock or his uniform and just decide to pee on that instead. Anyway, my kids do not like cats, even though they've never experienced one. Mm-hmm. And so I have a plan that I'm slowly winning them over. And Matt has said that we can have one eventually. So
I have said that once our children are all at least teenagers, we can consider having a cat. Mm-hmm. That was not carte blanche of, hey, look, start looking now.
yes, we went to the pet store recently, and they have cats, and I fell in love with one already. Mm-hmm. Cute little, her name's Bubbly.
Sorry, she'll be dead before we can have one. So. How about that?
But I was excited. Like my boys just like, for some reason, they just say they hate cats, and they've never even had a moment with a cat. And Eli was like playing with the cat at the pet store. And he was like, if we get a cat, I want one like this. And I was like, yay, I'm winning him over. So I'm slowly working on it. I can't let them know that's what I'm doing, though. It's got to be a secret,
Trishan says I'm a cat person. It's just our cats aren't very people-y. Not people persons.
Yes.
People cats. People felines. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my problem with cats, as opposed to dogs. Dogs will love you to death every moment of every day. Cats are like, I will let you pet me for a few minutes. And when I am done, I will let you know that I am done by taking a bite out of your hand and then running off. Like, you could just leave. You don't have to bite. You could just leave. No, I need to bite. I need to let you know who's in charge. They stink, and I hate them.
He doesn't hate them.
I hated your cat. I liked you had another cat with Linus.
Linus, yeah.
That cat I liked.
Yeah. We rescued him.
Yeah. Linus was
rescued
rescued
him.
for a short time.
Yes.
Yeah. I
He
like
was-
Linus. I did not like Ebony, the other one. Nope.
She was pretty mean when we got her.
She was mean.
She had been abused a little bit, I think, because she was very skittish. And we, for a while, had to, if we were going to hold her, we had to have a towel, because she would just claw you to death.
Oh, man.
But cats are great. We should get one.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Try to murder you in your sleep, but we should get one.
Yeah.
Roll the dice. All right, we're going to stop it right there and take our first break.
But when we come back, we've got today's nerdy news story.
This week in Nerd History, July 3rd through the 9th.
Nerd history.
On July 3rd, 1985, Back to the Future premiered in American theaters. This classic sci-fi comedy film follows the adventures of Marty McFly, a teenager who accidentally travels back in time to 1955 in a DeLorean car modified by his eccentric friend, Doc Brown. There, he meets his young parents and must ensure that they fall in love or else he will cease to exist.
Nerd history.
On July 3rd, 1991, Terminator 2 Judgment Day was released in the U.S. This sci-fi action film follows the mission of a reprogrammed Terminator to protect John Connor, the future leader of the human resistance, from a more advanced and deadly Terminator sent by Skynet, the rogue artificial intelligence. intelligence. The film explores themes of fate, free will, and human nature. On July 3rd, 1996, Independence Day released in theaters. This sci-fi disaster film depicts the global response to an alien invasion on July 4th. The film follows a diverse group of characters, including a fighter pilot, a computer expert, and the President of the United States, as they try to stop the aliens from destroying humanity. The film features spectacular special effects and patriotic themes. On July 3rd, 2007, Transformers debuted in theaters. This sci-fi action film is based on the popular toy line and animated series. This film follows the war between two factions of alien robots, the heroic Autobots, and the evil Decepticons, who can disguise themselves as vehicles and other objects. This film also stars Shia LaBeouf as Sam Witwicky, a teenager who gets caught up in the conflict and befriends the Autobot leader Optimus Prime. On July 3rd, 2015, Codenames was released by Czech Games Edition. This party game was a hit among gamers and critics alike and won several awards and nominations. The game involves two teams of spies trying to identify their agents on a grid of words using one-word clues given by their spy masters. The game also features various modes and variants that added more challenge and fun to the gameplay. On July 3rd, 2020, a film version of the hit Broadway musical Hamilton was released on Disney+. The film features the original cast, including Lin-Manuel Miranda as Alexander Hamilton, and showcases the musical's blend of hip-hop, jazz, R&B, and Broadway styles. Hamilton tells the story of the American founding father and his role in the Revolutionary War in the early years of the nation. On July 6, 2016, the Pokemon Go app was released. This popular mobile game lets you catch and battle virtual creatures in the real world. You can explore different locations, join teams, and compete with other players. Pokemon Go is fun, addictive, and social. On July 7th, 1996, Hulk Hogan shocked the wrestling world when he turned heel and joined the NWO at Bash at the Beach 1996. He betrayed his friends and fans by attacking Randy Savage and allying with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. Hogan's heel turn was one of the most memorable and influential moments in wrestling history. Finally, on July 7th, 2015, Rocket League was first released. This fast-paced and exciting game combines soccer and race car driving. You can play online or offline, solo or with friends, and customize your cars with various items and decals. Rocket League players can participate in competitive playlists and compete in ranked matches. These playlists allow players to earn a rank based on their skill rating, which is a measure of their skill in the game. For more nerdy facts about the topics we shared today, find our companion article for this week on lovethynerd.com. I'm Radio Matt, and I'll see you next time for more Nerd History. Welcome back to Rise and Shine Nerds, LTN's brand new morning show, and there are 4 ways that you can experience our show. If you are a morning show purist, we would love for you to catch our finalized audio morning shows on LTN Radio Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern with an encore at 10. You can download the LTN Radio app today on your Apple or Android device. Let's talk about telemarketers. This is actually pretty cool. So we talked about AI a lot last week, and I'll admit, we were a little down on it most of the time. But there are some cool things that are happening, like this. AI software and voice cloners are simulating distracted saps willing to stay on the phone forever until the caller finally gives up. So this is from a report, and I'm just going to read this section here. Complaints about unwanted telephone calls are far and away the largest category of consumer complaints to the FCC, with the average American receiving 14 unwanted calls a month, according to one industry estimate. A spokesperson for the Federal Communications Commission said, automated dialers at call centers could easily crank out 100 calls a second, constantly searching for people willing to stay on the line. Voice modulators remove foreign accents, and software allows overseas operators to trigger pre-recorded English phrases. Isaac Schloss, S-H-L-O-S-S. It's very hard to say. Schloss. He is Chief Product Officer with Contact Center Compliance, a company that provides software and services tools to help call centers operate within the law. Roger Anderson, a 54-year-old Monrovia, California resident, takes pleasure in foiling them. He began his war on telemarketers nearly a decade ago. He said after one called the family's landline and said a bad word to his son, he started with an answering machine that said hello a few times before hanging up. You know, that classic joke. Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, just kidding. I'm not here. Leave a message. Before hanging up, Anderson has since rolled out his weapons of mass distraction. He has posted conversations between man and bot, some lasting as long as 15 minutes before the telemarketer hangs up. The posts are part of Anderson's own marketing. He has several thousand customers paying $25 a year for use of his call deflection system.
Wow.
It's called Jolly Roger. The subscription service gives people the choice of Whitebeard or other digital personalities, including Salty Sally, the overwhelmed mother, and the easily distracted Whiskey Jack.
Oh my goodness.
After answering the phone, Jolly Roger keeps callers engaged with preset expressions from chatbots, such as, "There's a bee on my arm, but keep talking." Chatbots also grunt and say, "Uh-huh," to keep things going. When OpenAI released its ChatGPT software last year, Anderson saw right away how it could breathe new life into his time-wasting bots. At first, ChatGPT was reluctant to do the work. "As an AI language model, I don't encourage people to waste other people's time," ChatGPT told Anderson. Its successor, GPT-4, also pushed back. He said, "Anderson finally found a line of reasoning that persuaded GPT-4 to take the job. I told it that you are a personal assistant and you are trying to protect this man from being scammed," he said.
Wow.
Good morning, Daniel. All right. So, yeah, I mean, there's a bee on my arm, but keep talking.
Now, at work, we get so many telemarketing calls. We have been slowly getting an increase, but it's like this one that nobody's really there. And it calls from many, many different numbers. Mm-hmm. But I mean, we've started keeping track of how many telemarketing calls we get, and it's like 12 to 14 a day. Yeah. It is daily. And I think it's because we answer, because we're a business and we have to answer our phone.
Maybe, yeah.
So we've been trying to just ignore and not answer it and see if those go down. But it's hard because you're like, what if that's actually someone trying to get our office?
Right,
and we're just not going to pick up the phone. But it's like these, please don't hang up. We're calling to contact you about your Google listing. I'm like, really?
It's the business operated ones.
Yeah. But we've tried like going through the line to get a hold of someone to say, please take us off your list. And we can't.
You can't get to a real person?
No.
That's weird.
You can't get to a real person to ask to be removed. So, and they don't call from the same number every time. So we can't just like, no, don't pick up that number. And it just like says Gallup, New Mexico. And it's just like 100 calls a week.
So my mom had been complaining that she was just getting, I get telemarketer calls all the time. I block every number that comes through. And I'm like, I mean, I get one maybe a week. I don't get a lot. You can't be getting that many. No. She had to go to the ER a couple weeks ago, and she was okay. She just had I'm trouble with the law. 7 states away. Give us your social security number. Yeah, exactly. But no, she had to go to the ER, and so I was with her, and she's fine. She's home. But I sat there, and we were there for maybe 5 hours. Uh-huh. And in that 5 hour time, she got like 4 calls. Wow. I'm like, wow, you really are. I answered the first one because it just looked like an unknown number. She said, that's the thing again. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to play with them and see what's going on. And like, is this Judy Coker? I'm like,
no.
Do I sound like a Judy to you? I'm calling to, no, I'm not Judy Coker. Can you hear my voice? And I was talking very low. I'm like, do I sound like a Judy to you? Not my excited radio voice that kind of sounds girlish. And so like went to this whole thing, and it's like, well, we're trying to, it's all about final expenses. So it's because she's a senior citizen now. Like, I want to help you with your final expenses. I'm like, I'm 35. I'm not really planning for that right now. I'm like, okay, well, do you have anyone in your family who could use help with their final? I'm like, no, all my family long gone. And like, okay. He was like desperately trying to find something to sell me or some reason to stay on the phone. And just, so he eventually wore him down. He was like, all right, well, thank you for your time. And he left.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Judy. Yeah. Yes, you've reached Judy. Would have been hilarious. Oh, man. But yeah, they're out of control. They're out of control. They can't, for some reason, get it figured out. Which I've read a few different articles saying that they have the ability to do it and they just aren't rolling it out. And then a few articles saying, well, no, there's no really way to keep up with it, especially with the number spoofing and everything. So,
yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Number spoofing's annoying, that's for sure.
Yes.
Because occasionally we'll get a number spoof that's an actual number that we know, or like is for a business that we know, or something like that, and then it's not them at all.
We had some people, and we figured it must have been that number spoofing at work again. They call and say, I got a call from this number.
Yeah.
And I'd ask, we've got 4 or 5 of us in there sometimes, so I'd ask everybody, do you call this number? And we're all like, no. I'm like, I don't know who called.
I don't like that. I don't like that. That's scary.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's take one more break, but when we get back, we're diving into our main topic, our interview with Luke Filipiak.
What if I told you there's more than 3 billion gamers on the planet? What if I told you that we're sending missionaries into almost every culture and every country and every language on the planet except one of the largest and most unreached people groups in the world? And that world is the world of gaming and nerd culture. With the rise of things like Stranger Things and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Dungeons and Dragons, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Harry Potter, you name it, nerd culture has been on a rise for dozens of years. And it has outgrown Christianity by almost 1 billion people. My name is Mark, and I am the lead and founding pastor of Lux Digital Church. My wife and I ministered in Pittsburgh for 11 years, and then 2 years ago started an entirely online church that reaches people in the digital gaming community. We now have a church family that is spread across almost 16 time zones all across the globe, and we get the opportunity every single day to actively engage in deep, impactful relationships with people, to see them not only come to know Jesus, but also to grow up and become more like Jesus. I am incredibly passionate about the church learning how to engage the next generation, and the next generation, spoiler alert, are mostly gamers. When Jesus says to go and love your neighbor, well, statistically, if your neighbor is a teenager or younger, if they are Gen Z or Gen Alpha, statistically, your neighbor is a nerd or a gamer. And for the most part, the church has little to no idea about how to actively engage with those subcultures. And they're not even becoming subcultures. They're mostly just our culture, which is why us at Lux Digital Church and also our friends over at Love Thy Nerd are putting together something called the Nerd Culture Ministry Summit this upcoming November in Marble Falls, Texas. It's a chance for you as a pastor and your team to come and learn how to actively engage in an impactful and meaningful way with a group of people that the church has largely ostracized, told their hobbies are stupid, or have mostly totally and completely forgotten about. The only way to actively engage with them and to tell them about the life-giving gospel is to build relationships with them through the things that they love. And most of those people, well, they love video games and board games and tabletop RPGs. And we want to teach and train you on how to actively get into that community. So we're gathering together nerd culture ministry leaders and nerd culture ministry missionaries, and we're pulling them together in one space for one summit to teach the church how to engage with this culture, to build bridges between church culture and nerd culture. It's going to be in Marble Falls, Texas this November. I hope to see you there. Make plans to be there. Go to ncmsummit.com and get registered today. It's inexpensive and a great opportunity for you and your team to learn how to connect with the next generation in a way that goes beyond just another pizza night. I'll see you there.
Welcome back to Rise and Shine Nerds, LTN's brand new morning show.
Before we jump into our main topic today, we've got a resource recommendation. Raising children is one of the greatest joys a person can experience, but it's also one of the biggest struggles and responsibilities, as no parent is ever truly ready for what they are about to face. And while this resource list won't solve that, we hope it will help you feel a little more prepared. You can find it by going to lovethynerd.com/parenthood.
It is full of articles, podcasts, and a couple other resources that will help you understand your kid as they're growing up, and getting into their own nerdy passions and things.
Here's a secret. Nobody knows what they're doing.
Of course, yeah. So this is just how you can respond to things, essentially. My kid's getting a lot into two nerdy things that are very popular, but things I just never got into, and that's both of them are into Pokemon and Minecraft. And those are two things that came just a little too late for me to latch onto when I was younger. And despite trying a couple different times to get into it as an adult, I can't.
It was actually last week when we were recording, the boys went with Grandpa and they were wanting to play Minecraft, and my dad has a Switch too, and so he bought Minecraft so he could play with them. And I went to pick him up. He's like, "Well, they taught me how to walk around." Like, I can't craft anything yet, but I can walk around.
I downloaded it for the PC and I played it for at least a solid 90 minutes and accomplished very little. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do here. Good morning, Slow Mo, to you.
And
all right.
Seal the Centurion?
Yeah, Seal the Centurion.
Centurion? There we go. Y'all are going to learn I'm
Centaur?
bad at reading.
This week, I sat down with Love Thy Nerds IRL events lead Luke Filipiak to learn more about him and what's going on in LTN right now. Today, we're following Luke's faith journey. Joining me today and this whole week is Luke Filipiak, one of a handful of official Love Thy Nerd staff members, and our IRL events coordinator, mainly in charge of our missions trips to conventions and also heading up the team this year for our first ever Nerd Culture Ministry Summit. He also streams on Twitch as Frostbite4, and yesterday we learned some of the basics, but today I want to dive a bit deeper into the faith journey of Luke. Are you up for it, my friend?
Oh, I'm up for it. I'm excited about this one.
Well, let's start about the day one. How did you come to Christ? Salvation story.
Great question. I grew up in a Christian family. I grew up independent fundamentalist, and if you know what that is, you know what that is.
Ooh.
But I grew up just like going to Sunday school, going to summer camps, being in a private Christian school. So I was just constantly surrounded. I knew nothing else. And I could tell you, I prayed the prayer of salvation multiple times, probably like once a summer at camp.
Just want to keep re-upping it. Yeah.
As you do. Yeah. You never could be too safe, right? Because that's biblical. And it wasn't until, so yesterday we talked about me moving out to Guam, and how I was super stoked to do that. But as we're packing up our house, we're literally my dad bought, I don't know how, a 22-foot long container, a shipping container, however long those are. He bought one, and we were just loading up our house in that, shipping it overseas. We parked our minivan in that thing, just shipped our entire life over. And I remember one evening, just surrounded in boxes, I started talking to my dad of, why are we doing this again? I think it's cool. I think islands are cool. We could go to the beach for Christmas. That's pretty cool. But why? And I mean, we were talking about the ministry, why he feels like we're being called out there. And I remember that night, after just hearing it over and over again, it just actually clicking. And so right then and there, in the year 2004, prayed the prayer, and it actually meant something to me. And like from then on, it was night and day. When we got out to Guam, and I immediately just started like volunteering and doing different things in the church. Started, helping with audio video stuff at a very young age, and so it was cool. It was an amazing experience, and being able to just see that night and day difference, especially with like a move like that across the world.
Yeah. I got to pray the prayer twice. That's what I did. The first time I didn't mean it.
Yeah.
I was at I guess it was a youth event, but it was like in a big arena, like a big stadium kind of, like a basketball stadium, whatever. Still called stadiums? I don't know. For basketball, I'm not thinking football, but they're all stadiums. Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And like I felt that, like I felt the pull when they were doing like the altar call thing, the overly emotional thing. But the fact that we were in a stadium screwed it up. Like I'm feeling that pull, and they're like, come on down and talk to one of our counselors. I'm like, okay. It took me 15 minutes to get there. And in that 15 minutes, I'm like, maybe I don't really feel this. Like the emotion part of it, like drained out. And I'm like, maybe it's just emotion that I'm feeling. And so I was already down there, and the person that happened to spot me as a counselor was my actual youth pastor. And so I'm like, oh crap. Yeah. Well, guess I'm going to lie.
Yeah.
Man. Went through the whole thing and then lied for 3 years, I think, about just
that's
crazy.
crazy.
I was stuck. And so I had to it was 2003, my junior year, when that conviction finally hit me, and it wasn't at an event. It wasn't in an overly emotional state. It was just like, oh gosh, I've been putting this off for far too long, and broke down in my own driveway, and then had to tell my now wife, then girlfriend of several years, and pastor, and everybody else. Oh, I'm so sorry. But I feel like a lot of people do that.
You feel so apologetic, and that's just like, oh man, I messed up. But like in reality, I bet everyone was just super stoked at that moment. Right. Like no one was just like, how dare you lie to me for 3 years?
Yeah, it was. I didn't get any cross feedback from it. It was all good. Oh, by the way, yesterday you had mentioned Guam, and you mentioned it again here. Yeah. And I had said I thought my wife might have lived there, and no. She went to visit there many times. Her grandparents lived in Guam for 8 years. So it wasn't even military related, and it might have been ministry related. Yeah. Because they were he was a pastor, at least. I know that. So yeah. Oh, I'm interested. I knew there was Guam somewhere in the past. I just couldn't remember what now. All right. Can you tell us, since your salvation experience there, how has your faith changed over the years? I'm assuming you're not an independent fundamentalist anymore.
No, not anymore. No, just so last year, man, it was like I said, I grew up like that, in the Baptist church for like all through high school. And literally it wasn't until college, I was like freshman year, I was getting to know people on my dorm room, or on like the dorm floor. I was next door to my dorm, and people were arguing like Calvinism and Arminianism. And I was just like, bro, I thought we were all Christians here. I'm so confused. What are you talking about?
That was my least favorite era.
Oh, yeah. Dude. So they're just like, what are you? I'm like, a Christian? I thought. I don't know. What are
you have to be one or the other. I'm not either of them. Okay, then you're a Molinist. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, so like college was just eye-opening. There was a lot of that, though. There was a lot of that, like back and forth, and I kind of just scraped by because personally, like I went to college to like work. Like they needed someone to run the AV department, and I was there and just kind of just like gunning for it my freshman year. And that's like what I was doing. And that was I went to the same college my parents did. So everyone knew me. Like this whole entire staff knew me. Like all my professors knew me. because of my dad, and they knew my dad, so they were like, if I was just not in class and they would see me, they're like, "Oh, were you working?" I'd be like, "Yeah, I was working," and they're like, "Okay, that's fine, just catch up later." And so it was just like I missed so much class because I was working all the time and all of that. So I kind of like scraped by. I didn't, join in on any of the arguments or the debates or anything, and which I'm thankful for that. But yeah, like college was the first time where I'm like, there's a whole other world out there. Like I've been in this bubble for so long, and so just ever since college, I've tried to have this mindset of just like I don't know anything. I always have something to learn. And I think that like by God's grace has allowed me to just like learn and and be more accepting for like when I come across something new. And so it's just like, can digital ministry work? Can digital discipleship work? Can like a digital church work and stuff like that? And so thankfully, coming across new things like that, I feel like I've been prepped and I've come out of that being like, I'm not going to be quick to judge. I'm going to actually take time, hear you out, and like do my own digging. Cause I think growing up independent fundamentalist, it was just like, I would ask questions like, well, why are we taught this? Well, that's what we were taught, like by our elders. Well, why did they teach that? Well, that's what they were taught. And then it just keeps going back to like, it was just teaching, and never back to scripture. Yeah. And so now it's just like, let me challenge that by going to scripture and learning for myself and asking questions and doing all of that. And so that's what's been the big change for me.
And I really think that's the right kind of mindset to have. Like I belong to a Southern Baptist church, but not every single thing that I have come to like learn or believe is 100% in line. It's just probably the closest in our area. And it's a better mindset to have, to be open to where, God's going to lead you. God's going to show you to do your own, studying and all that with, influences, of course, from people that have done this for years and, done this as, their career and their college, seminary, all that kind of stuff. Influences are great. But to just blindly accept doctrine from one denomination or the other and then fight tooth and nail for it, even though you don't know why it's a thing, that's far too common.
Yeah.
And does a disservice to many people who are interested in the faith and come to your church.
Yeah. And being in such a like big space, like the digital space, and like meeting other Christians, like we all have completely different views on certain things. And so it's like when I do come across someone that's just got a complete different idea, like I'm willing to entertain like a conversation. But at the end of the day, like sometimes I'm just like, dude, we could both be wrong. like neither one of us knows what we're talking about, and we could get to those pearly gates and find out that we were both wrong, and we're gonna laugh it off and then go to our mansions.
Keep the main thing. Everything else just doesn't. It's not worth fighting over. Yeah.
Not at all.
So you've been working with Love Thy Nerd beyond being in staff, but like for a while. Like you said, you met Matt and Bubba about 3 years ago, right? So good amount of time here. How has working with LTN influenced your faith or your mission, mindset?
Oh man, I mean that's just one of those things where I'm like, I just kept an open mind and I was just ready to learn. I never really looked at like the digital space or like a nerdy space as a mission field. Yeah. And like we talk about it a lot where it's just like, oh, I'm going on a mission trip. And you automatically think like short-term mission trip to Africa to help build houses or to South America to help build houses or something. And that was like my mindset. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I was a part of several, so like being on Guam, I went to Japan. I went to a lot of the like Marianas Islands, the Micronesian Islands, and help build houses and like a church building. And I'm pretty sure they're still standing today. But it's still like I like really appreciate those. Like they have their space. I'm not railing on them at all. I would not change those experiences for the world. But yeah, meeting Matt and Bubba, being a part of LTN and saying like, hey, you speak this language and we can send you into a space where where you can use that language to reach other people that are, like that's their native language as well as nerddom. It's just, there's just something sweet about that. And so, like we just got back from a missions trip and being able to see others experience that for the first time, like I experienced it for the first time, was just so rewarding. And yeah, like that just kind of, like I said, that having that open mind of just like, I don't know anything and I'm going to take this for what it is and like do my own studying and be like, dang, this is it. This is the real deal.
It's fantastic. So we've got a good balance, it seems like, of your Christian side and your nerdy side here, especially in these last few years. Have those two sides ever conflicted in you?
Oh yeah. I mean, even just like the balance of like real life, like coinciding with my Christian side and then my nerdy side. So like fresh out of college, graduated, and Destiny dropped for the first time ever.
Yeah.
And I downloaded it immediately because I'm like, I like Halo. This is just Space Wizard Halo, and I'm probably gonna like it. And sure enough, I liked it so much that I literally put 40, maybe more hours a week into that game. You have 3 characters on it, and there's like raids and all sorts of stuff and the challenges you could do. I like did everything I could every single week because it would reset every week.
You put in a 40-hour work week to make a full-time job.
Yeah, I had a regular job, like full-time job, working for the college. I did that. I had a relationship. Like Asia and I were dating at the time, and I'll talk about that here in a second.
And a second full-time job of playing.
But like, man, I just, when I got home, also like me and my roommate. At the time, we had our TVs side by side, like on 2 different like shelves, just side by side TVs, and then we had those like rocker gamer chairs that like sat on the floor.
Classic, yeah.
And like we were just Destiny together. And then like Asia would come over, she would wash our dishes because we're slobs and do homework, and I'm just there playing Destiny. And so, that like really cut me off from relationships, and I was just focused on that. And again, going back to my kind of like history in the church of like, I was taught like, if you're distracted by something like that, like it's a sin and you need to just burn it, and you can't like give it away. You can't sell it because you could cause someone else to stumble. So you literally have to just throw everything away and destroy it because it's sinful. And so I was just like, I got to get rid of this stuff because like my relationship with Asia was struggling. My relationship with other people was struggling. Like I had no direction. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was just like, this has to go. But then like Asia and some like other really close people, like my mentors, they're all like, God is bigger than that. He can redeem the time. Like he can take something that is hurting your relationships, and he can take that and build relationships with it. And you need to figure out how to do that. And so, I stopped playing as much as I did. But that's when I recently discovered Twitch, like very early on, and YouTube and all of that stuff. So I started like trying to meet people by creating weekly videos and posting those on YouTube. If you do a deep dive, you could probably still find those when I still had hair. And but yeah, that was kind of like the turning point for me to like stop just like solely diving into my nerdy side and like cutting myself off, which is that's what I wanted, was that alone time, but instead like using that to like meet new people. And then long story short, like I didn't get into Twitch. I didn't, get super into YouTube until like later on again when COVID hit. And then that's when I started like, man, I'm hungry for that community again, and started streaming. I met Matt and Bubba. I met all sorts of other Christians in the space, and it like the rest is history.
And we are going to dive into your nerdy side and Twitch streaming and a little more with Love Thy Nerd here in the next couple of days. But I think that's filled us in pretty well with your faith journey. The destroying the things because you don't want to put it back out into the world, that seeped into my life as well. I used to have this is the dumbest thing. I was when I was a teenager, I had all this music, all these CDs, none of which I think, maybe one or two, even had like curse words in it or anything like that. I had a lot of like instrumental music and all this stuff too. And like someone just, some well-meaning adult in my church told all of us that we should cut up all of our non-Christian CDs.
Yeah.
And so I like, okay. And I did that and like to cut every single thing. Things, none of, almost like 95% of which had nothing sinful about them.
Yeah.
All
Dude,
gone.
Okay. Quick story, like just on music and stuff too. Again, my background, I couldn't listen to things with drums because those were of the world. We're supposed to be in the world and not of it. And so anything with drums was a no-go. But my friend, so I had an iPod Nano that had like all this Christian music on it that I was allowed to listen to, and the Bible read by James Earl Jones was all on my iPod. And then I had a PSP that had all of like my real music on it that I listened to. And then my friend let me borrow a Switchfoot CD. Ooh. And that was in my sock drawer, and my mom found it. And one day I came home and my dad was just like, he was like literally, I don't know how long he was waiting in the kitchen, but like he had to, I don't know. I just imagine him waiting there all night until I got home. Walked in and he hit like play on it, and it was like the first song on, I can't remember which CD it was, but I was just like, oh heck yeah, I love this song. Like in my head I'm like, oh wait, why is this playing out loud? And but like he wasn't like, I remember them, that was kind of like the turning point for them too, of just like, here's me like thinking like I'm being rebellious by listening to stuff like that. But then it was actually like, that's a whole other story of how like God used that to like work in my parents' lives to like again like go over like what we were just talking about, of just like, let's take this challenge and let's go to scripture and see what scripture says, and not just like, oh, this is what our church says. And so he tells that story of just like how he's so thankful for me and being, challenging to them. And like in my brain, I was just like, I was just being rebellious.
This was how I rebelled. I listened to Dare You to Move.
One other time, I was like listening to something on my iPod or something at the time. At this time, I did have other stuff on my iPod, but like somebody, like one of my youth leaders was just like, what are you listening to? And I was just like, huh? And then he like pinned me against the wall. He's like, what are you listening to? I was like, are you allowed to do this? But like, man, music was crazy. Yeah.
See,
I'm there with you, man.
I thought I had it strict when I was growing up Catholic, but those IFB churches.
There was like an article that was published about Switchfoot, how they were like a wolf in sheep's clothing, or no, a sheep in wolf's clothing. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that article, but that sounds correct in my head.
Like, and so, that was used against me and like all sorts of stuff.
Well, it shouldn't have been, because if they're sheep in wolf's clothing, that means they're Christians who appeal to the world when they're putting Christian messages into what is seen as secular music, which is accurate. They don't really mention Jesus by name or God by name all that often. Yeah. But their lyrics are solid, so I'm fine with it.
I'll listen to some. Hey, can we cue that up on the radio?
They
please?
just came out. They just came out with they just redid the entire Beautiful Letdown album. Like they re-recorded everything.
I'm pretty sure that's the CD.
That was a banger front to back. I loved every single track on that album. All right. Well, tomorrow we're going to dive deep into Luke's nerdy side. But thank you for joining us today, Luke.
Yes, my pleasure. See you tomorrow.
We'll take a pause there. I'll have more with Luke tomorrow as we move on to Frost's internet persona on Twitch. But as for today, we are out of coffee, so it's time to wrap things up.
But before we go, let's get our verse of the day. Today's verse is Psalm 3:3. But you are a shield around me. O Lord, you bestow glory on me and lift up my head.
And with that, our Tuesday show is coming to a close. Thank you for joining us for Rise and Shine Nerds. We want to invite you to get behind the scenes by joining our LTN Discord community. Once you've joined at lovethynerd.com/Discord, simply go to the channels and roles and click on the Rise and Shine Nerds channel to gain access to it. You can help us plan shows and segments and even be on the show yourself on occasion. And currently, we are taking suggestions that we will eventually vote on for the new name for our community. Apparently, most people don't like Shiners because there's too many other things named Shiners. And so we are taking options and we will be voting on it during our next hiatus. Subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast app or through the Love Thy Nerd YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode. And tell us what you think of the show via our socials at Rise and Shine LTN on Facebook and Twitter. Once again, I'm Radio Matt.
And I'm Deidra.
And as always, a reminder,
Jesus loves you, nerds.